Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Command Score studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, well, I've got a fun one for you. That's right, the complete beginner's guide to building your very first Commander deck. And well, let's start off by talking about the most important thing when it comes to building a deck, picking what Commander you want to build around. Now, here I've elevated some good beginner options for you. You can also check out, I've got a couple episodes on beginner options as well. Go ahead and make sure you watch those. That being said, the gist of it from some of those episodes basically is that you want a Commander that is, well, very straightforward and typically very few colors. I'm talking about, well, actually zero technically colorless, one or yes, maybe two, and sometimes you can push to three, obviously, but the more colors you bring in, the more decision points you make, essentially, when it comes to the amount of cards that you have to pick from, and also, obviously, most importantly, mana fixing, and those things kind of come with time, typically. Now, when it comes to these commanders, again, Dina, great one at, draining opponents, just gain some life. Rishkar, great at counters and getting free mana, essentially, from your creatures. Valduk, get equipment out. Swing with, equipment-created creatures, basically. Azuri, make small creatures, make them bigger. Franco, make a bunch of goblins. Talrand, cast spells, make drakes. God Eternal Catcher, cast creatures, make 4/4 zombie warriors. And Sheree, hey, creatures that are small, they die, they come back. Very straightforward options, essentially. Again, some of them might have a decent amount of text on them in some ways, but they're going about it in a very straightforward way. That being said, for this episode, I want to focus on Talrand Sky Summoner, because I do think Talrand is a very straightforward, very classic commander that can still hit hard these days, really can, and really, again, when it comes to building it, is very straightforward. You want a commander that is very straightforward, and actually a commander that can actually kind of win you the game on its own, essentially. Like, it is the win condition. Can also be a very important factor of, again, having a successful, first deck, essentially, for a brand new player. Now, first of all, when it comes to what you're going to be doing to go about building the deck, you can, yes, absolutely go into EDH Rec, and I still do EDH Rec. I utilize this as a kind of last check step, essentially, and I do recommend that as well. When it comes to kind of building your own deck, if you are a new player, you might utilize this as a crutch, obviously, and that's completely fine, but some players might utilize it too much as a crutch and be like, well, I have to include these cards because it's included in the EDH Rec, like, percentages. And yes, it's a very good tool, absolutely. So yeah, utilize it, but again, when it comes to building your own deck, also realize that, well, it can also influence you in some ways that you, well, might not, again, like, agree with. Again, you might be like, oh, that card, actually, I don't think it's going to be good in this deck, but then it says I have to use it. So you just take everything with a grain of salt with this one, essentially, but utilize it, again, as a step, as a necessary tool at some point. But yeah, again, don't necessarily feel like you have to just completely trust EDH Rec, like, on every single recommendation, essentially, because, again, it's going to be pulling in a lot of different decks for a lot of different situations, and yes, you can filter it down still, but yeah, it doesn't mean that because Opt is on this list that you absolutely have to include Opt. Now, is that a good option? Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but it doesn't mean that you have to include it because 77% of decks include it, so it doesn't mean you have to do it, okay? Now, the tool that I want to point you to, though, is Scryfall. Scryfall is your best friend when it comes to commander decks. Scryfall is absolutely amazing. It's an incredibly powerful search tool, essentially. And yes, it has a lot of great ways to go about it. You can just type in any card name right here, and there you go. There's your card name, essentially. You can also, well, go into their advanced search, essentially, and this is a great place to start for new people. This is a great way to go, okay, you know what I'm looking for? Well, I'm looking for, okay, what's already a blue, card, essentially. My commander is blue. Mana cost, you could go within that. A mana value if you're looking for something small, something big, etc., etc., etc. If you had something specifically in mind. Legal in, obviously, well, commander, essentially, right? So yeah, you go for a commander, essentially, within here, or whatever other format you essentially have that you're looking for. If you know the card's for a specific set, cool. I mean, like, again, if you're a newer player, you probably aren't thinking about specific sets and things like that. But yeah, you are maybe, okay, with me, like a budget player going like, okay, like maybe cards that are less than $1 a piece, okay? And then you can start from there and you can just create your search so you can actually go, okay, these are the cards that I'm picking from, essentially. Now, a couple of things with this just as a base. I mean, this is still 3,736 cards, which can take a long time for you to get through if you're just going one page at a time. Also, sorted by name might not be the, necessarily best approach. Sorting by EDH Rec, though, can be a really good approach. And again, take things with a grain of salt. Just because a card shows up as number one on this list doesn't mean you have to utilize it. Again, especially when it comes to this list being more so just general blue cards versus specific ones for Talrand 2. That being said, it's a bit easier going through it in this way than going, okay, looking at cards like, yeah, Screaming Seahawk. Do I care about a 2/2 bird for 5 mana? Searching for Screaming Seahawks? Probably not when you start at the very last, end of it, essentially. So, when it comes to this kind of a platform, though, when it comes to this kind of a tool, it's an amazing tool for you. And I'm going to be showing you, again, even at a beginner level, some very, very, very important tips and tricks when it comes to building your deck. And it can really help you essentially focus on what you're doing versus just scrolling through endless lists or just really heavily depending on EDH rec. And this is where the Tagger project comes up. On Scryfall, it is an amazing, again, search engine, but also, if you just have a tiny bit of knowledge, which I'm going to impart with you today, essentially, that knowledge, essentially, on what you can do with this. I mean, you can search for art on there, which is really cool. It's very cool. But actually being able to search for, right here, you can use function, O-tag, or Oracle tag. I like to call it Oracle tag, but I mean, I type in O-tag because it's shorter. When you search for the Oracle tag, essentially, of things, you can, determine, okay, I'm looking for cards that ramp me. I'm looking for cards that are removal. I'm looking for cards that are counterspells. I'm looking for cards that do this, or do that, or do this, or do that. You can essentially make it so that you are, again, thanks to everyone who has been supporting the Tagger project, thank you all so much. You can make it so that you are hyper filtering your cards so that when you're looking through those cards, instead of looking through, again, 3,600 results, you're looking through, say, 150 results. And you can figure out what cards you want out of that specific category, okay? When it comes to this, again, we are going to be talking about Talrand, right? So Talrand, I guess I probably should have read what this one does, essentially, right? Here we go. A 2/2 Merfolk Wizard for 4 mana in blue. Whenever you cast it, insert a short spell, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature with flying. Now, Talrand, again, a mainstay in Commander for a long time for a reason. It's super simple, super effective, very straightforward. What do you want to do with this commander? Again, even as a beginner player, it's very obvious and apparent what you want to do. You want to cast a bunch of instant sorceries. That's what you want to do, because then you can flood the board with a bunch of evasive creatures. And again, a 2/2 might not be the biggest creature of all time, and we've got ways maybe to adjust that. We'll talk about here in a little bit. But essentially, it is a way to go, oh, okay, bunch of evasive creatures, and yeah, eventually they can keep hitting harder and harder and harder and harder. Again, if I've got 10 of them, I'm swinging for half someone's life total potentially without them being able to block it because I've got evasive creatures. So, yeah, very straightforward. I'm going to be casting a bunch of instant sorceries, and yeah, of course, Scryfall can help me sort by that, and search by that, and filter by that. And also, we can talk about, again, what other kinds of things we might want to consider when it comes to this commander, the different factors that you want to consider in building a deck around a commander. Okay, first of all, again, when it comes to a commander like this, now the 3 things that you do want to keep track of, essentially, with any kind of a commander deck out there, okay, I do say any, but there are some that are exceptions of that, obviously. The vast majority of commander decks out there are, you need to make sure that you have ramp, removal, and card advantage. You need to make sure that you've got, ways to get mana resources and ways to keep up with your opponents with that. You need ways to essentially, stop your opponents from doing certain things because, they've got a game plan too, and you've got to have ways to throw wrenches into their game plan. And then also you need ways to dig down into your deck to get to the cards that you need to win and set yourself up, etc., okay? So those are things that we'll talk about at the end of this episode because, those are kind of mainstays for every single deck, essentially. And yeah, the general numbers, obviously, just kind of, they vary, from person to person. But again, like a good just beginner way to start off is, okay, in your head, all right, 10 things of ramp, 10 cards for removal, and 10 cards for card advantage as well. Though obviously, depending on the deck, that's going to shift, essentially, okay? Those are just good mainstay things just to think about, though. But when it comes to, again, when you're building around your commander, again, Talrand has a cast trigger. Okay, something that you can actually do with Scryfall, again, a really good, just again, beginner-friendly way of going about this is, okay, Talrand's got a cast trigger. Okay, let's search for other cards that are kind of like Talrand. If you can find other cards that are like your commander, essentially, it's a good way to basically double up on your commander in a way, which can be quite good. So, with this search, let's just go through this really quick. ID is blue. You in Magic, it's U. Okay, it's not B because B is for black. U is for blue. Got it. Okay. Anyways, USD minus $1. I'm a budget player. All my cards that I want to search for are less than $1. And then O tag again. That's that Oracle tag that we talked about earlier. Cast trigger. And again, you can get that full list essentially of all those Tagger tags essentially within that cheat. And I'll make sure I link that too. And then also FO full Oracle. instant, or FO, full Oracle, sorcery. So essentially, I'm searching for here, again, cards that have the color identity of blue, the price is less than $1, the card is tagged as cast trigger, and the full Oracle text includes either instant or sorcery. So basically, again, very much like Talrand, does the Talrand thing. If I cast an instant or sorcery, I get a, result. So again, with this, Murmuring Mystic. Okay, cool. A very, very good card. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you make a 1/1 bird with flying. So it's not quite as good as Talrand, obviously, but it's still very good. Again, I am making more and more creatures, so obviously I'm going to be adding that to my deck. Or instead of deck, maybe I should say I'm adding it to my list, because, well, when I'm building a deck, I'm not going to be so precious to think, okay, right now I just need 10 of this, I need 10 of this. Okay, wait, am I at my threshold right now? When it comes to building a deck, trying to hit the exact, 100 cards all at once can be very, very difficult to do, but making a list and then cutting down later can be an effective way to do that. We can talk about cutting here in a bit, but yeah, what I'm going to be doing with this is I can either click into Murmuring Mystic and go add it, or in this view, I can actually just hit A on my keyboard and it adds it to the list. So I already created a list called Talrand, make sure that one's applied here essentially, right down here. And then all of a sudden you can say working on Talrand, I click that, cool. All right, I've added Murmuring Mystic to my list now. Current case, the Ransack Lab. You can just start reading through some of these cards and see, okay, what do they do? Do they help me out, essentially, in the way that I want? Again, Cast Against Sorcery, Scry 1. Oh, that seems very good for me. It also reduces the cost of my spells. This one also reduces the cost of my spells and also draws me cards. You can read through these, again, instead of reading through 3,600 cards, you're down to 65 cards that you can read through to see, okay, these can be some high-impact cards that are kind of like my commander again. My commander wants me to do something, these also want me to do the exact same thing, and now I can get extra value out of that. Another factor that you're going to want to think about when it comes to Talrand is, well, okay, I'm making an army of 2/2 flyers. Awesome, okay. And 2/2s are great, right? But we can make them even better. Heraldic Banner is a great example of a card that can help us out in multiple ways. And what I search for with this one is very simple. Again, IDU, blue, USD -1, again, budget card, O-Tag, Oracle Tag, Anthem. So again, Anthems are cards that pump my entire team. When it comes to cards I'm searching for, only 37 of those fit it. Again, instead of trying to look through 3,000 plus cards, you're looking through 37 cards now to say, do you fit in my deck? Do you fit in my strategy? Heraldic Banner is a great example of that. Okay, it's a mana rock, enters battle, features a color, it can tap for 1 mana of the chosen color. Okay, blue, creature control of the chosen color, get +1/+0. Again, pumping our Drakes, essentially, just from a mana rock is absolutely massive. Now they're hitting for 3 instead of 2. The clock on our opponents can be a lot quicker with something like this. Metallic Mimic, another great example as well. When creatures come into play, they get counters if they match the creature type, and we get to choose creature type of Drake. So there we go. Just keep adding these cards essentially to our list, and we'll cut down later. Another great example. Again, choose creature type. Cool. Okay, so these ones, again, that are a bit specific for that. Again, specific for, again, a tribal-ish kind of aspect. Again, there's not really kind of too many Drake, tribal cards out there, obviously. But ones that can be flexible, adaptive, as you might say, can be very helpful as well. Some of these obviously don't necessarily match up, again, like Master Ethereum. Okay, like artifact creatures, that doesn't help us essentially. But Favorable Winds does, gives our flying creatures +1/+1. So again, thinking through, okay, our commander does this thing. We already talked about other kinds of cards that are somewhat similar, okay? So it helps that thing as well. And then this one's like, okay, what does our commander do? It makes 2/2s. Okay, how can I make those things more effective? How can I make my commander more effective? I can pump those creatures. So I'm going to find ways to pump those creatures by giving it anthems. Moving on, and when it comes to actually going through this kind of a list, essentially, it can be a great way to get new ideas, because we already saw Case the Ransack Lab and Jace's Sanctum earlier, right? And with that, that can kind of trigger something in your brain and go, oh, you know what, actually, cost reducing is very important for this commander as well. Again, I'm going to have a lot of instants and sorceries, and yeah, sure, some are going to be cantrips that just cost 1, but other ones might cost a bit more, and if I can reduce the cost of those spells, I can cast more and more and more of them throughout the game. So, something like Haughty Djinn can be great for you. Again, power is equal to the number of instant cards in your graveyard. It's a flyer as well, can hit very, very hard, but it also reduces the cost of all those spells by 1. We already added Case the Ransack Lab and Jace's Sanctum. Mind Splice Apparatus, beginning of upkeep, get an oil counter on it, and it reduces the cost of those further. Yeah, quite amazing for us. Again, there's actually, 13, more than I thought, actually, essentially, when it comes to cost reducers at, a more budget price, essentially, but still a really good amount to be able to reduce the cost of our spells. And we can actually utilize these cards in a fantastic way that's kind of like a pseudo form of ramp. Now, we still want ramp cards, right? But this is a good addition to those that can really help us out throughout the game. You still want ramp. You still want to be able to ramp and get extra mana, essentially. These aren't just our ramp spells, but being able to reduce the cost of them is kind of an additional, like a +1 on this as well. Mocking Sprite, a good example as well. Yet another flyer. Keep in mind that this creature itself and Haughty Djinn itself can also get benefits from our, again, anthems potentially. Not the ones that are a bit more tribal like the Drake ones, but again, the ones that benefit flyers, absolutely. The ones that benefit blue creatures, absolutely. So do keep that in mind, that you're going to have a lot of overlapping things with the deck, and that's really what helps decks hum, is that synergy. And thinking through, okay, these cards that kind of stretch multiple categories, again, we talked about Case the Ransack Lab, Jace's Sanctum, now Mocking Sprite, Haughty Djinn, the ones that can translate across a couple different categories can really help us out and really make a massive impact on the game. Next up, like I said, moving from one kind of card to another kind of card and sparking ideas, it is absolutely imperative to just kind of go with the flow when it comes to building a deck, when it comes to actually getting inspired by different kinds of things. Again, we just talked about cost reducers. Now I'm talking about cards that are actually cost reducer self. And that when it comes to, like, looking through the tagger tags, essentially, you can actually get inspired by just going through that. If you're like, okay, I'm looking for cost reducers, okay, I, search for that within tagger, and I see, oh, right next to that actually is cost reducer self. Yeah, maybe I should consider cards that reduce them, the cost themselves, essentially, too. So, like, some really expensive instants and sorceries that normally when I'm building around Talrand, I'd be thinking, okay, again, low-to-the-ground spells. But these are bigger spells, but ones that can actually just reduce their own cost for me and cost cheaper. Also, when it comes to searching for things, too, and you can learn some tips and tricks as you go within Scryfall, obviously, again, we got ID Blue, USD -1, O tag, Oracle tag, cost reduce yourself, but then also minus is permanent. So when it comes to searching for things, yeah, you can search for things like O tag, cost reduce yourself, so searches for those, or you put a minus in front of it, it's everything but that, essentially. So again, with this, minus is permanent, is kind of like the exact same thing as searching for full Oracle instant, or sorry, I should say type instant or type sorcery, essentially, right? So with this, essentially, we're like, okay, cards that are not permanents. What kind of cards aren't permanents? Instants and sorceries. So out of this list, I've got 65 cards that have a self-reduction for their cost. So you get some really cool cards like Treasure Cruise. Absolutely. Again, you're going to get a lot of cards into our graveyard casting a lot of spells, right? We can delve this cost down so it costs basically nothing. Just 1 mana, essentially, to draw 3 cards. It's amazing. We've got Dig Through Time. Again, another way at instant speed to get a good amount of card advantage off the top of our library. Look at the top 7, put 2 of them in our hand. Costs just basically 2 mana, essentially, again, at instant speed. Again, this even takes into account, again, like Phyrexian mana as well. It's technically a cost reducer for us, too. Proliferate, if we've got any kind of, like, counter synergies. Again, we talked about earlier, maybe a certain anthem type, essentially, that can give counters out to our creatures. Absolutely. Or Winged Words, again. Cost one less to cast if you control a creature with flying. We're always going to have flyers out there. So, yeah, sure, absolutely. Again, if we have any of those other, general cost reducers in play, we're going to be able to just cast this for just a single mana to draw 2 cards. So there's a lot of these amazing cards that can really help us out. Again, you just need to kind of go with the flow when you're building, okay? Again, don't be so precious about, okay, I need this many right now for this, kind of card. I need this many right now for this kind of a card. When you're starting off, yeah, I mean, at some point you do need to check yourself when you are, putting the actual list together. But when you're starting off, just kind of go, again, with that kind of train of thought. Again, my train of thought was, okay, what does my commander do? I want to double up on that, okay? Find other things that do that. Oh, okay, cool. From there, I see that there's cost reducers that can really help me out. Okay, from there, now there's some cards that can reduce their own cost. Absolutely. So keep going with the flow and figuring things out, again, when it comes to what you want to add into your deck. Okay, next up though, yes, now let's jump into one of the important categories that you do need when it comes to building a deck, and that is ramp. So again, very simple, very specific again. Instead of looking at 3,600 cards, looking at 300 cards, okay? And we can even shrink that down even further just for my own personal preference. Now, Myriad Landscape I do include in every single deck, basically. Okay, not every single deck, but the vast majority of decks out there because it's a very good ramp card that doesn't take up a spot in your deck. That being said, it is not, again, overly efficient when it comes to ramp. It really isn't. It's nice to have in the deck, absolutely, and it's really good for landfall and stuff like that, too. But there are certain players out there, and it's completely fine if you do this, that really go, oh, okay, yeah, like my land does ramp for me, so I'm cutting a ramp spell from my deck. I personally would not do that. I would not go, okay, yeah, Mirror Landscape, that does ramp, so yeah, let's cut out, Arcane Signet. Yeah, you still want, again, like, let's say, again, from a beginner's perspective, you're just counting up to 10, essentially, when it comes to ramp spells, don't include lands. So, personally, I'm just going to go, again, minus T, land. And then, all of a sudden, I have taken out all the lands, and apparently there were, like, 14 or 15 of those, so those are gone now, so I don't have to look at those, essentially, when it comes to my ramp. Again, when it comes to ramp for this commander, again, we're mostly going to be using mana rocks, obviously, because we are in blue. We don't have access to, again, like, rampant growth type spells, except for, of course, Wayfarer's Bauble, adding that to the deck right away. But yeah, Arcane Signet, when it comes to my essential general rule of thumb when it comes to ramp, I want to spend, twice as much basically as I'm getting out of the ramp. Let's say that a different way. If I'm paying 2 for a mana rock, okay, it's going to tap for 1 for me. If I pay 4, it taps for 2, etc., etc., etc. Soul Ring, obviously, is an exception. Right now, it is not under $1. That is one card that is always, like, on the fence for $1 or less. So, essentially, right now, it's not within the budget for this deck. That is a broken card that normally would be banned in the vast majority of formats out there, obviously. But in Commander, it is not banned, so obviously, it is hyper efficient. It's like 4 times efficient as anything else, essentially. But when it comes to that, I mean, Everflowing Chalice, that meets it, right? Again, you pay 2, it taps for 1, you pay 4, taps for 2, it's incredibly flexible. Gilded Lotus, it's above curve for that, okay? It costs 5, it taps for 3. Now, again, at some point, we might look through and go, okay, you know what? We're going to be a bit quicker. We're going to be lower to the ground, so maybe take out that Gilded Lotus, because it does cost 5, sure, it's very, very efficient, but, like, I want to be lower to the ground, so maybe, like, a Worn Power Stone would help me more so. Cost 3, enters tap, taps for 2. Again, these are the kind of decisions that you don't have to make right away. You essentially can go, okay, I'm going to put all these cards essentially in this list. I'm going to put them in the different categories. And then I'm going to, when I'm making cuts, determine, okay, what does this deck want to be? What does it want to do overall? Where's everything fitting? Where's the mana curve essentially on it? And you can make those decisions. But again, just some general rules that apply. Again, that even as I go about when I'm building these things, again, like, okay, yeah, about 10 sources of ramp, not including lands for myself. I don't include those. And again, when it comes to efficiency, they have to meet my minimum threshold of efficiency of, again, giving me half as much mana as I put into them. Again, you might make some exceptions, though, here and there. You're like, oh, okay, Midnight Clock. Actually, yeah, I really, really like that it can reset my hand, essentially. So maybe I'll make an exception for that one. Or again, we talked about this already, Heraldic Banner in another, again, category. And this is where you can go, okay, well, I have 10 ramp. Does that include Heraldic Banner, which is also an Anthem, when that can be like 2 category card? Or is that just an extra ramp card for me because it's also an Anthem? You can make those determinations, essentially, as you keep going and as you keep learning more about your, deck building preferences. Next up, again, the next category. Again, one of the 3 main categories that I talked about when it comes to, again, the ones that you kind of have for every single deck out there. Well, again, you've got ramp, you've got card advantage, you've got removal. This is going to be the second of those categories we're going to talk about, and one that can be really, really impactful for a Talrand deck. This can be the engine of the deck, basically. It can be the driving force of those spells you're casting, because in card advantage, again, you're in blue. You've got a lot of options. Again, when it comes to our, search, we have ID blue, USD minus $1, O-Tag, Oracle Tag, Card Advantage, and then type instant or sorcery again. If you're taking notes, you can do minus, is permanent, basically. So with this, we've got 485 cards to pick from that give us some kind of card advantage. Again, whether that's, all right, draw cards, and again, this is where you can kind of go, okay, full Oracle if you're searching for, okay, draw cards, or you could do like, okay, off the top. This is one that gives you all of them when you type in card advantage like this, okay? So being able to go, okay, very important for this kind of a commander. Do I want to go, again, those super low to the ground, just, okay, everything's an opt, basically. Like, opt can be a great card for the deck, obviously, okay? Very low to the ground, replaces itself, essentially, gives me some card selection as well, just costs a single mana. Now, keep in mind, I do actually have the cost reducers as well, so other cards can, take advantage of that a bit more, but still, it's a very good card. Frantic Search, basically a free spell, and with cost reducers, actually, it's going to be even more than free, because draw 2, discard 2, untap 3 lands. If it costs less than 3 mana because of cost reducers, well, all of a sudden, we actually gain mana from casting it, which is amazing. And again, all the while, making our Drakes. Distant Melody, an incredible one. Choose a creature type, Drake. Draw a card for each permanent you control that type. Oh my goodness. Factor Fiction, just a staple for a reason. Very good card. Make an opponent make some bad decisions with something like that. Already talked about Dig Through Time. Again, some of those cost reducers, self-cost reducer type cards. Do keep that in mind. Maybe even an X spell if we really need to get a really big way to kind of reset our hand. Absolutely. But again, they come here like Talrand, do we want that? Do we want those big spells? Or do we want to kind of keep it more low the ground spells, essentially, that can really help us out? So again, you can make those determinations. Always feel free to just add to the deck. You know, if it feels right at the time, just go, okay, adding it to my list. At some point, maybe I'll cut it down if I don't feel right about that one, though. So it all just depends. Don't be too hard on yourself when you're building this. Again, it's just fun, right? You're just having a good time building out the deck. And then, you know what? If it doesn't work out, if you've got to make some adjustments later, you've got a list, essentially, of cards that you were considering beforehand, and you can make adjustments to your deck later. Or maybe even just buy, you know, when you're buying the deck, buy like 110 cards. You got like 10 extra ones. Not like a sideboard, but like, okay, cards like, oh, I was thinking about utilizing that one, and actually, you know what? Now I'm going to swap it in for the next game to see if it works better with this. And now that third pillar that we're going to be talking about, again, we talked about ramp, we talked about card advantage, now let's talk about removal. Yeah, this is going to be one that, again, when it comes to blue, you've got access to a lot of removal cards. Some better than others, obviously, but 760 cards to pick from. Personally, again, when it comes to this, like, I'm going to be like, okay, yeah, no lands, please. Like, I don't really consider lands to be, like, solid removal pieces for the most part. When it comes to this as well, again, you can look at the kind of top ones, be like, oh, okay, rapid hybridization, good at, like, single target removal. Do I want that? Do I want single target removal? Yeah, I mean, it's 1 mana, so that can really help me out. Reality Shift, again, costs 2. Gets rid of something permanently, replaces it as well, but it can actually just cost 1 if you have a reducer in play, can be quite good. Aetherize, a good way to just get rid of a lot of attacking creatures, so I'm willing to keep mana up. Am I willing to keep mana up on my opponent's turn? Probably, because I've got a lot of instant sorceries, or sorry, instants I should say, that I can then just cast if nothing happened to me, essentially, and go like, okay, yeah, let's make some drakes before my turn starts. You've got a lot of different ways to remove a lot of different things. Again, there are going to be some where you're like, you know what, actually, well, I'm searching through this right now, and there's a lot of these like little creature removal things, like a mere Battlesphere. Sure, I guess it can remove things, kind of, sure. Or like a Steel Hellkite, that's like a very mana intensive. Maybe you're like, you know what, I want lower to the ground ones, okay? So like, let's go CMC, -5, or sorry, lower than 5, so anything that's 4 or less. That'll cut down my number. If I'm like, you know what, actually, let's not look at creatures. So -T creature. Okay, I've got ones that are now just, okay, just instants and sorceries, maybe even. Let's just do that. Minus is permanent. Actually, I don't need his creature then. Permanent. Then I can actually just go, okay, out of all these, I've got essentially 189 cards to pick from. If I'm just going for, okay, I want cards that, again, are those instants and sorceries that don't cost too much mana, that can be good removal for me, you can do that. Now, with removal as well, you can also go, you know what, actually, I need mass removal. I need some wraths, essentially. So with this, well, we see some of the ones we already looked at, and actually you can, again, if you're searching for a single target, there's a way to do that as well with O-Tag. Make sure you check out the tagger. Anyways, mass removal can be great for us too, though, and go, oh, okay, yeah, again, are we going to be doing one of those counters? Probably not for Wave Goodbye. But actually, Scourge of Fleets is amazing in a mono blue deck because it can just bounce all of our opponent's things. Perplexing Test, a great Wrath as well. We can bounce all non-token creatures, so yeah, our tokens can stay out there, which can be great for us as well. River's Rebuke can be a good, like, one-sided, like, hey, you know what, that one player over there, let's take them out because I absolutely need to. Again, Filter Out, a good way to bounce everything that's basically non-creature, non-land. Can be a great way to do it too. You can do a lot of exciting things when it comes to, again, being able to just go, okay, very specific, very focused searches, essentially, with this. So you can actually go, oh, I didn't even actually know that card existed. That is perfect for my deck because you can just go down and go, oh yeah, I was even thinking about Ixodron. Ixodron can be great because, well, Ixodron can be a great way to turn everything into a token, but, I mean, not token, but a 2/2 face down. You might not want to do that if you want the actual, you know, evasiveness too. So that might be perfect for this deck, but another deck, you can just determine, again, as you're going through, hey, what works best for this? What works best for my strategy? What works best for the deck that I'm building? And go very specific in your searches. And finally, well, you are in a blue deck, so, well, Counterspells. And actually, the O-Tag for this one's very simple, very specific. It's just Counterspell, which is very funny. Of course, the first one that comes up is Counterspell. Here's the thing about Counterspells, again, it just depends on the player if you want to run them or not. It depends on the player if, you know, you consider it removal or you don't, kind of in a way. Some consider it removal, some consider it like more, okay, no, it's actually more control aspect, and I want at least 3 Counterspells in my deck, or whatever it is, essentially. You got a lot of ways to essentially consider that when you are in blue specifically, but yeah, make the adjustments that are best for you. I personally don't like running too many Counterspells because, you know, if the game's going to end, it just ends sometimes, you know, and I don't like 5-hour games. Not that Counterspells slow down the game that much at all, but I typically run just a couple in my deck, essentially. So, you know what, for this one, let's just do Counterspell, let's just do Negate, And sure, let's just do, sure, Mystic. Actually, Rewind is great for this one as well, because Rewind can actually get your mana back. So let's do that. So we're just going to put those 3 in there for now. Obviously, if you want to adjust a bit more, you go, oh, you actually know what? Long River's Pull is very good as well. Oh, Mystic Confluence, that actually goes across a couple of different categories. So, yeah, you can kind of make those choices as you go again. It's probably better to add more cards than less, essentially, when it comes to this first step, because after that, you're going to go down to cuts, and then you're going to determine, okay, what action does this deck want to do? What does it want to function as an entirety, essentially? So, yeah, you can make those decisions ahead of time by just putting in your list. Okay, from there, let's say that I've added all the cards that I want to add into my list, and I essentially say, you know what? Now I'm going to look at what I've done so far. Okay, I go down here, I click on this, I see, okay, this is the one I'm working on with Talrand. Cool, all right, here's the cards that I have for my Talrand deck so far. Let's take those. Okay, I'm going to export them. I'm just going to copy them to my clipboard, and I'm going to go over here and say, you know what? Pick whatever deck builder you want. I personally love Moxfield, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to go, okay, let's build a new deck. Let's just call it Talrand, essentially. So Talrand. And I'm going to go to, I do private personally, and then paste in list, and then I put in the cards. Okay, so there you go. Actually, with this, though, if you're going to go with Commander and you want to be a bit more specific, you can go Format. Cool. All right. Commander / EDH. Who's your commander? It's Talrand. Awesome. There you go. And then from there, hit create. Now with this, in starting your deck, you've got, okay, all the information down here. Your bracket info will eventually get there as well. But yeah, $14 right now. Again, I don't have enough cards in the deck, 36 right now, but obviously you got to add lands too. That being said, again, as an example, this is a great way to just start off. And you can actually just kind of, again, start sorting these as you would, again, with the mana rocks themselves. Just go like, okay, yeah, tag, okay, ramp. And you can actually do like global tags as well. So once you get these cards already in there, you can go, okay, yeah. If I just upload these cards in here and I've got global tags, which are these kind of tags essentially, this one's always going to be considered a ramp spell essentially. So Everflowing Chalice would always be a ramp spell, and I can actually just kind of make sure that I'm sorting these properly. For this one, I'm just going to go with this though. And you can actually see that, okay, I've got my categories. Again, I can see how many are in each one, how many cards are in each category. Again, don't hold, I mean, as a beginner player, you might want to make sure that you have at least 10 of each of the important categories, right? But again, don't be so precious about it. You're like, oh, I need exactly this many for each one. Okay? So make sure that you're, again, when it comes to building a deck, considering what the commander itself does, obviously, consider, okay, what are other avenues to really take advantage of what this commander already does? What are ways that I can make that even better? What are those cards that can help, be utility cards for this deck? Of course, cards that, help me ramp, cards that help me card advantage, cards that help me with removal. I need those as well. But yeah, when it comes to that, make sure that you are, again, utilizing your tools, again, yes, EDH Rec to kind of check yourself. Yes, you can, as a beginner player as well, of course, lean on that if you'd like to. Again, that can lead to certain, maybe less than optimal plays, essentially, if you are, again, be like, well, 77% of decks utilize this. I don't think it's a good call, though. I don't like that card, but, like, they have to be right? Go with your gut sometimes. Again, that's why I personally just like to use EDH Rec kind of as a checker at the end. And I just use, again, Scryfall as an amazing search tool. Again, use those tags, use those Oracle tags, use those full Oracle tags as well, so you can actually search for them properly. Yeah, being able to just build your decks in this manner, though, is a good way to go about it. And I hope that you got some good tips and tricks from this. And again, have fun with it, okay? Building a deck is a fun experience. Building a deck is one of my favorite things about Commander. Just putting it together, putting those pieces together, and, well, figuring out kind of how it lives and how it breathes and how that deck is going to function. And again, if it doesn't work as well as you wanted it to, again, you've got that extra list of cards after you cut down, essentially, like, okay, maybe I'll get some of those and swap some of those in and see how that works now, too. And with that, this episode is coming to a close. Comment below with your thoughts on it. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.